Start our September 18th Traffic Advisory Commission meeting. Our first order of business is to do roll call. So Steve here. Susan
Sunderman.
here.
Terry Falkenrath.
Dan
Here.
and Clark Cotaling. Our chair Chris is out of town. And we have one other member, Robert Fox, who's not here also. And Pat Perks is here.
Staff liaison.
Great. So our first item is to review the minutes from last month. I had a couple of things I wanted to note. The first was in this first discussion item, it says request for meeting form was reviewed. It doesn't really say what the subject was. So was that for the parking ordinance
Yeah, that was on the agenda.
on the agenda? So that's the discussion item about the parking ordinance. Okay. And then the only other thing was our adjournment. I don't think it was 4:39. Might have been 5.
No, because it was an online meeting that started at 4.
It was.
Yeah.
We're good. Okay.
There you go.
Excellent.
Okay.
Anything else? Does anybody have any other comments? I would like to welcome our visitors. We're going to have very shortly, we'll have a time where you guys can speak. We try to limit those to 3 minutes, but you're also welcome to stay for the entire meeting to hear everything else if you like to. You don't have to. The fourth item, I thought it would be good for us to review our goals each meeting, just as a bullet point.
We're gonna vote.
Yeah, we gotta vote on the minutes
Need to
first.
call for a vote.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Any other changes to the minutes or comments?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Just as a reminder, our 4 main goals of the Traffic Advisory Commission. Number 1 is to use safety as our guiding principle and propose recommendations that are unbiased, transparent, and administered fairly. Our second goal of the Traffic Advisory Commission is to develop a complete streets policy specific for Webster Groves and present them to City Council for approval. Our third main goal for this year is to develop a written plan of the Traffic Advisory Commission process for evaluating citizen requests. That's something I think that we need to work on, and when we get to our other 2 major items, I think that's something important. I've noticed there might be some citizens that make some requests, and we don't necessarily have a good way of getting feedback back to them or letting them know what we've done. Or when items come in to you, Captain Perks, I think there should be a way that those are tracked, that we see those there. I know there are some that you guys just handle
Right
on your own, but it would be nice for us to see what those requests are coming from the citizens. Just as a way to sort of how are we evaluating the requests and getting back to people. And then our fourth major goal for the year was to prepare a document of uniform criteria for parking restrictions, which I bet is why most of these people are here today. So again, those are our major goals. I think we're making some really good progress on some of them. Hey, Robert, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. So now we're gonna be at the part where we will invite attended citizens. If you have any statement you would like to make, we typically don't have this as a back and forth. It's anything that you'd like for us to hear. We ask for you to limit that to 3 minutes. Will you be timing?
Yeah, say your name, your
Uh,
address.
Kurt Becker has raised his hand and he was the one that brought this to the attention of the group. So
Okay. Okay, so
Not able to come tonight.
Kurt, if you would like to be our first speaker, can you unmute yourself and see if we can hear you?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Absolutely, and if you can state your name and address, and then we'll time it and try to limit it to 3 minutes if possible.
Sure, you bet. My name is Kurt Becker. My address is 118 Sylvester Avenue. And I want to just start by thanking the members of the commission for your service to our community. I completely understand the commitment required from you guys to take on these important issues. I also recognize that you're unpaid volunteers and that that you're giving of your time freely to better our city. So thank you for that. I'll be brief with my comments. I think the letter and Mr. Chairman, just to confirm, the members of the commission received the letter that I shared with Mayor Allner, correct?
Yeah, yes, we have.
Okay, so I think that letter is pretty comprehensive, and I don't know that I need to say a lot more about it. However, I do feel like it's really important to point out that we wouldn't be having this conversation if it was Webster University trying to find a way to deal with parking problems on their campus and seeking to have that parking spill over into residential streets. Likewise, I very seriously doubt we'd be having this conversation if Narings High School had similar problems. The reality is that the Webster Groves Traffic Commission and the Webster Groves City Council, I am quite confident, would take a very dim view of one of our community members seeking to solve their parking problems by inconveniencing the residents of our community. And I think that's the lens that we need to look at this situation through. As somebody whose kids have gone, K through 12 through the Webster Groves school system, I understand very, intimately that, we all have a strong affinity for the school district. But the school district is a separate entity. It's a separate taxing entity. They have their own revenue sources. And in many cases, they're really no different than Webster University or Narings High School. And the reality is that what we're talking about here is a Webster Groves High School problem. It is not a City of Webster Groves problem. And the City of Webster Groves shouldn't be solving the problems of the Webster Groves High School on the backs of the residents that live around the high school. And I think that's what we're trying to do here with this recommendation to the city council to change the parking restrictions. I can tell you that just living on Sylvester, I'm honestly disappointed that the traffic commission hasn't taken up the other very real traffic problems that we've got on Sylvester Avenue. There's way too much traffic on that street. Traffic drives way too fast. There's way too many commercial vehicles using Sylvester Avenue as a cut through, even though it's posted that they cannot. There are a lot of things that this commission can and should be doing to improve the quality of lives of the residents on Sylvester Avenue and around the high school. Adding more parking, particularly on both sides of the street, is just the wrong approach to this.
I gotta cut you off here. I appreciate it. Appreciate your comments, and we've definitely seen your written ones. And if there's anything else that anyone else in the room here wants to add, we'll give them their 3 minutes as well. But thank you so much for your input.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to everybody on the commission for considering the perspectives that I bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else,
Should I just speak?
if you state your name and your address?
My name is Mary Ann Young. I live at 125 Sylvester. I've lived there for 14 years. I'm here just to share some of my observations of living on the street for that length of time. It is a street cutoff between Lockwood and Big Bend. And as Kurt said, we do get heavy traffic construction trucks, delivery trucks regularly throughout the day. This happened to me the second week that school started. I turned off of Sylvester. I was going north, going south on Sylvester, turning right onto Swan, which is double parked. And I stopped at the stop sign that's there, turned right, and as soon as I turned right, there was a student, I'm assuming a boy, coming up on the hill on his bike. He had no helmet on, and he was riding his bike in the middle of the street because that was the only place there was to ride his bike because both sides were parked. And when I turned right, that was the only place I could drive the car to, and he was almost on the hood of my car. It was very frightening, and I wish that he had a helmet on, but he didn't. But nothing happened, but I don't think that's, can be avoided sometimes. The parking that does exist now where kids or students do park on the west side of the street. Sometimes that becomes congested with parking close to your driveway, but I cannot imagine what it would be like to have both sides of the street parked full and then have cars come through or trucks come through. Like today, we had a tree trimming service that had 3 big trucks that blocked it for maybe 3 or 4 hours. And when I pulled out of my driveway, I have to inch all the way out to the center of the street and then try to look around the car that's there and see what's coming. And unless there's somebody directing traffic, it's a chance. So what I see is heavy traffic, I see congested traffic, I see the potential for real disaster if we park both sides of the street. That's my piece.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. My name is Carolyn Bowles. I live at 101 Sylvester. My husband and I have been invested in the property for over 16 years. In that time, we've had 2 boys that we brought home to that home. And they're getting close to driving age. And it scares me to think of additional traffic and the additional people that would be put on the street when they're learning how to drive. In the time that we've been there, we have had damage to 3 of our vehicles. 1 car was backed into, 2 side mirrors have been damaged. We have had a contractor who was parked in the front of our house legally, and a high school student totaled the vehicle, ran into it, completely smashed the back of the truck and totaled the vehicle. And it was a parked car. We don't need more traffic. And to that effect, Friday morning, I was sitting at my desk in my bedroom and I heard a clink, clink, clink. And I look out and I see a side view mirror has just come off of a car and it's sitting directly in front of my house. And fortunately, it was a very respectful young man. He came out and he didn't know who the car belonged to, but I was able to direct him to our neighbor. We have a lot of property damage happening because of the traffic that is on our street. And I just called another neighbor that wasn't able to make it here today, Jill Guffey, and she said that she has had similar damage at her house. And she said that her and her husband will be putting in a letter to the mayor as well. But we're all experiencing property damage, and we feel that our safety is a concern by adding additional traffic and additional parking on our street.
Let me go ahead now.
Yeah,
clarify some stuff. I wanted to let everybody speak, but there's a big misunderstanding happening, I think. I'm not sure why. I don't know that our proposal has been circulated at all, and I know you all have received a message that isn't necessarily accurate. Our proposal really is based on safety and limiting the amount of parking that can happen based on street width. So I did a quick quick measurement. Sylvester's 24 feet wide. So according to our proposal, we would not allow on our end to parking on both sides of your street. It would be the whole point is that we start to balance where parking's allowed depending on how wide the streets are. So I just want to clarify that really quick because I feel so bad that you all think that we're wanting to open up both sides of your street. And I don't know how that message got out. but that's absolutely kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do.
Right.
So are you trying to remove the parking restriction that currently exists in front of my house?
What
that
I'm
was
gonna,
bought?
I'm gonna say,
No, we're
we have an update on our parking proposal on the agenda.
Okay.
I'm glad you made that comment, but
When
we're
you
really-
everybody's
It's-
everybody's comments, I know.
Because now we've spent our 3 minutes
Yeah.
and we
Well-
didn't know what your
Well, you can
proposal
still
has
say
changed to.
Yeah,
right, well, the last several months, we've been going through it
well, and our
detailed, so.
it's never changed. That's been all
Right.
along. I don't know how the message got to be what the message is, but our
So-
message, our point all along has been based on street width.
So I'm gonna ask if, are you finished with yours?
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're not doing parking on both streets.
And I just wanna make sure this isn't
Removing the parking.
really a
restriction
back and
currently
forth.
exists.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in, but
That's all
I
right.
feel so bad.
So I think we just need a little clarification of what the
Right.
proposal is.
And we'll
That would be
we'll do
great.
that when we get, that's our next agenda item, so it's our old business is that we'll be reviewing.
Because just, maybe I'll wait.
Okay,
And.
well,
I was
just,
saying if anybody wants to-
yeah,
I didn't want to stop anybody, but
But it makes sense that you know, like have it clarified and also everything you're saying, like we are moms, her kids go to the school or went to the school, we are on your side. I think it got out there that we're removing restrictions and making it more dangerous, and that's the opposite of what we're doing.
Okay,
Yes,
so.
or
just
proposing,
so-
we don't even have much power, we're
Okay.
proposing.
Right. So I do have a chance to speak, now would be my time
Yep.
to do that, correct?
correct.
So I do just wanna mirror what.
And if you could state your
I'm sorry,
name.
My name is Becky Hauser, I live at 111 Sylvester Avenue. And I mirror what my neighbors have all mentioned, in addition, we did have our we're the only house that has a mailbox at the street, at the corner of our driveway and the street on Sylvester, we sit behind 101 Sylvester, we have a flag lot. And we have had property damage to our mailbox, it has been hit by a driver. I cannot fathom having more cars parked on the street, we see what Swan is like, and it is, you're landlocked if a car is coming in different directions, so. I mirror that, I'll be conscious of timing, but I'd be interested in hearing what the actual
Sure.
proposal is.
Okay. Good. Anyone else? Yep.
My name is Ashley Merriams. I live near 44 and Elm. I'm also a school district neighbor, but my problem is with Hickson Middle School. They're removing 70 spots from the parking lot. And that's gonna spill over into our neighborhood. They're also widening and adding a lane onto our residential street. And effectively doubling the length of Ambrose behind my house. Came about a year ago here.
Mhm.
I'm tired of it. I've spoken with Miss Fraser. I have called the mayor. Hi, I don't know what else to do. They're currently, I sent last week Miss Fraser a picture. I also sent it to Captain Parks this afternoon. They're blocking the crosswalk. Right now, the construction fence is halfway in the crosswalk. It's a safety ADA security concern of mine. And I just think that we, as a neighborhood, haven't been notified that the plans were in advance of course of the law. And, you know, I'm worried about the same thing everybody else is, property damage, safety of my children. I live 3 houses from the school. My kid can't walk to school safely. And I came to talk to you guys about a year ago about it too.
are those the changes with the new moss? Is that what it is? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so to that point, you're creating like this massive like shopping mall, you know, style exit into our neighborhood. But you're also not like making that proper intersection between the city's property at the rec center and the street that they're installing behind my house. So like, where is my 15-year-old gonna learn how to drive home? And how is he gonna tell who has the right of way when a one-way goes into a 2-way, into 3 lanes of traffic into a neighborhood? You know, it like, it's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And you know, those types of plans don't typically come in front of us, like,
No,
I haven't seen those, but I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
If I could speak, I'm a public works, so I know most of the school district projects like Hickson is We have very little collaboration with the school district. It's a very rocky road relationship between the city and the school district.
So is it the district who made the call on expanding Ambrose
I
and?
think so I remember.
Is it expanding the road?
I don't know. I mean, we.
We have a school district representative here.
Yeah, so I know.
Well, I think we need to add this to our,
Yeah.
to our action list to review next time, because you know, I
It's
think,
problematic.
well, I think all of our, if we hear there's not a good relationship between the
It's
city and the school district,
Cause I'm not sure like what my director gets and what he approves.
Right.
I know is like, so I know we got word that hey, it's gonna
Okay.
take off and then.
we will definitely add this to our.
Mhm.
All be here.
Thank
I
you.
don't think of
Amy.
Ambrose, is Ambrose a city street that you all maintain?
From stop sign to stop sign.
I believe so, so that's
Yeah,
where I'm
so
not
I would
sure.
think,
what
yeah.
collaborations have gone through with, between our.
The city would have to sign up on that.
I would think so, but
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing anything, that's so it's all news to me.
All right, any other public comments?
This goes back to your, initial comment regarding, being able to, get information back to residents. And, when you were talking about the width of the street, since I had that incident with the boy on the bike on Swan, I just wonder how wide is that street? How can that street safely take 2 lanes?
Not under our proposal. And that's
So-
like a
That
good
is
example
that is a
of
real issue.
what we're trying to
I try to
solve.
avoid it, but when that kid came at me on his bike, that was really upsetting,
Right.
so.
Thanks. I think we're gonna now jump to our old business, and I think we'll skip our first item, which is sort of about the tracking, because I think we have 2 bigger issues. One is just sort of an update on our on-street parking policy. I'd like to give you a little bit of an update of where we are. And if somebody wants to summarize it, either Steve or Carrie, if you want to do a quick summary for these visitors, that would be great. And then I'll give you an update of where it stands in the process of what happens next with that. Just so you guys are aware, and you'll know the next type, you'll have a chance to speak about it. But does one of you two want to give it?
To talk. Not allowed to talk. Can I share screen? I was gonna just share our proposal.
Is it up on the Traffic Advisory Commission site or anything or not? Because it's just.
I'm
a
assuming we're not,
proposal.
I don't know, yeah, no, I don't think it is, I just have a copy. I don't know if we would be allowed to post that, I mean, it is public record at this point,
Yeah.
right? So, can you make?
Are those,
give me
are
permission?
those
Oh, there we go,
attachments
it's on me.
Greg added, uploaded? Like
Not yet.
the agenda items that are on today's agenda, are those things uploaded?
On the Traffic Advisory.
No, because everything would have been in like
If it's
the
not-
last meeting.
Right,
So until that's approved, it can't get put out
gotcha.
And it's showing nothing, that's lovely. So while I'm trying to figure out how to get this to share. Let's see, there we go. I think I hit the wrong thing. And no, doesn't want to show my PDF. Okay,
That's weird.
I know that is weird. Let me try.
Look, it just popped up.
Did it really?
I think it's just slow.
There's a
It's
real
just
lag.
being slow, okay.
Do what you just did again.
I'll do what I just did, and then in the meantime, I'll tell you all. So this, our proposal started with, we get a lot of questions about parking and parking
There you go.
restrictions. There we go. The whole point of what we're proposing, I just highlighted instead of, is really just based in safety. And the safety of how wide a street is versus when we started this, we even reached out to the fire department, waste management. How wide are your trucks? How much room do we need to let those trucks pass so that people don't get, obviously, we all know people lose their rear view mirrors all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, but it's happened more than just on Sylvester. So it's issues like that we wanted to keep in mind, issues like Swan, which are very narrow. And there's students parked on both sides of the street for parts of it, other parts of it, they do get the restrictions, so it was kind of some blocks are getting restrictions and some blocks aren't. So the whole idea was to kind of level that playing field, and really just base it all on street width. So, here's what we came up with, less than 18 feet. If it came to us, and this would be the guidance, if it was less than, the street width is less than 18 feet, we would not recommend parking on both sides of a street.
On either side.
On either side of a street, sorry, thank you. If the street is 18 to 26 foot, then from a safety perspective, one side can accommodate parking, because a parking lane, most cars are 6 feet wide, lanes are 8 feet wide. So you're still leaving 10 to 12 or more feet for vehicles. And then a street that is greater than 26 feet wide, from our policy, we would say that parking could be accommodated on both sides of the street. Because you can still then leave a dual path down the middle of, 14, 16 feet. Which granted, two big trucks driving side by side down the street at the same time. But most people don't drive that way. So hopefully, yeah. That gives you room to let another car pass if and when that occasion happens. And even if that is a fire truck or a trash truck. So that is really the safety basis of our proposal. So on a street like Sylvester, we would look at your street, say 24 feet wide. By our policy, you should not have cars parked on both sides. I think where the confusion happened, because when we wanted to start, the idea was to balance, like I said, we have blocks of Swan where there's parking on both sides. There's, and then in other streets, other segments, there's no parking. It's to look at some of the existing restrictions and say, does your street fall within one of these width guidelines? And do the existing restrictions match those width guidelines? That's where it's coming from. And I think that's maybe the message that got out. And that would apply to streets. There are certain streets north of Lockwood that are 38, 34, very, very wide, who have parking restrictions on both sides, who, in our opinion, could very comfortably and safely accommodate student parking. But they're not currently. And that's, I think, where that message got out, that we're trying to take away or change student parking. That's not really the only goal, but that would be part of the process of trying to balance who in the community is supporting. I think somebody said it earlier. Oh, I think it was first speaker, Kurt, who is kind of carrying the weight of shared public parking. So that's where our policy is. Now, that's the first tier, would be the safety and the street width. And then the next tier is, let's say that there's parking allowed on your street, or per width, but we also want to look at it from whether the residents need the parking more than the general public. Say in terms of, again, we always go back to school parking. That's really not the crux of this, but it's kind of become the hottest part of the conversation, but it's not necessarily only for the school. In a street like Swan, where you've got dense houses and you've got a lot of student parking, if the residents want to preserve parking for themselves, then we have another part of our policy that looks at looking at home density, and already given what we would believe parking should be allowed on one side or both sides or no sides. Then we have kind of a guidelines for how and when you could restrict a portion of that allowable parking to resident only. And that's based on the density of the street. And we have some really great pictures that have been done that kind of balance both of those, showing what that would be like if there was housing, residential parking, and what's allowed on each side of the street as far as the width of the street. Gosh, so there's 10 and 2 parts of it. So sorry, I'm trying to talk about them both, but
Right. And then in the process that we put this together, we've shared it then with the city. And the city manager takes it to her departments and gets feedback from them. They then returned it back to us with a neutral position, saying, I think there's some work that still needs to be done, but it's neutral. Then the next step is in October, beginning of October, at a work session with the city council, they will bring it up in a work session. And if 2 or more of the city council members say, hey, we want to hear this, it'll then go to a city council meeting. There'll be a public hearing, and they'll decide whether to make this an ordinance, to change it, to say no ordinance, no changes. I mean, that's sort of the process. So we've right now given our recommendations. And they really are based on, because we get requests all the time, our street, we want no parking, or we want two sides parking, or we want to have some guidelines in place that are fair across whatever street you are. And then also with areas that are a little bit more,
The parallel are the guidelines that guide us for stop signs.
Right.
Or speed limits.
exactly.
We have similar, yeah, we have
The
guidelines for
universal
stop
policies
signs.
that are applied, and that's.
Does your proposal have any, information, like, for traffic calming or circles, any nature?
That is not part of,
The way,
this is just parking, this is the parking only.
got it.
We also, one of our other goals is complete streets. That would be a much more holistic
umbrella.
approach to how all projects going forward are looked at. Because our feeling is, as the Traffic Advisory Commission, is that the streets are not just for cars. They are for everybody. And they have to work together and they have to be safe for everybody, whether it's people in cars or people that are walking or people that are biking. So
With the example that a construction project wouldn't have green light until plans for crosswalks being preserved and things like that.
exactly,
That's what's.
exactly.
No
And-
widening, you
Right.
know, an exit without putting a
Yeah,
crosswalk.
so this is really just to do with equitable parking.
And this was when I joined in 2021, this was one of the first issues that came up that
We
we
started
attempted to
in-
address.
Years.
Yeah.
At least.
Cause it was like this traffic commission was defunct and then the pandemic and then people were passionate. So this is just one thing that we're trying to do with the parking but the bigger picture, Ashley, you and I have talked about it, the complete streets, the Vision Zero, we're trying to do that as well. It's just slow.
I was just saying, now you know why it's been a year and the process that he just outlined.
And honestly, one of the things that the city is facing, and I'll just state this, is that there are some commissions now with some very active, interested members that are really pushing stuff forward. Probably faster than the city can handle a lot. I mean, if you think of the Sustainability Commission and the Traffic Advisory Commission and the Plan Commission, I mean, all this stuff is coming. The city has limited resources, so we get frustrated sometimes if things aren't moving faster. But we think we have a really good relationship with the city manager and with the mayor, and I think, and we have great support from the staff and from the police, so we're moving forward. We're happy.
So it seems reasonable on a piece of paper or in a drawing that, you know, a street that's 18 feet to 26 feet wide can accommodate parking on one side because one other person can get through. But what you don't see in a graphic like that is the flow of traffic on busier streets. And I see that you're taking into consideration the density of residential housing. But I don't see that you're taking into consideration in your parking ordinances, how many cars typically travel on that specific street during a school day.
I appreciate, and I don't mean to cut you off, but this is a commission meeting. We have a lot of business we gotta do tonight. It's not a public hearing. So we hear you. We hear the comments. Put them in writing if you want more stuff, but the next process will be in front of city council. I think.
Yeah, I'm just saying, should there be a third level to your parking situation where it says residential density, traffic flow density? Because that changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Swan, Sylvester is extremely traffic dense.
Send an email and that will go in the consideration immediately. I promise, every email we get, we look at, we put in the queue.
Anything else on that parking ordinance, Steve, or
No, I think so much.
Bob, do you have anything that you want to add? Is David hasn't joined, has he? Okay. You guys are welcome to stay if you want to hear some of our other stuff, but you don't feel bad if you have to get up and leave. We typically don't go past 6:30, so we won't keep you all night, but you're more than welcome to stay. Our next agenda items is our complete streets update.
Okay.
Did all of you see the email exchange from Dr. Peoples and this Safe Streets and Road Grant? Which was, there's a lot of good stuff in that email, I thought. There's the project for South Elm between Glendale and Watson has been approved. That will be adding a 10-foot wide pedestrian and bike lane down the western side all the way down. Which is, it's awesome. There's no sidewalk there at all right now. So that's been approved and it's happening south of Hickson, which I think is a good thing. Also, they applied for this grant, and honestly, I was a little bit concerned that there were 7 demonstration projects that they listed that we weren't a part of helping suggest that.
I suggested to reach out to you guys, but.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had a deadline, so we,
Hold it to the.
Yeah. we
What was it
appreciate
that-
that very much.
We always-
We have,
all
we have,
kinds of demonstration ideas.
we do, we have a lot of demonstrations, so it's just, it was a little bit of a surprise to hear, hey, there were these 7. But the good news in that was that if we get the grant, and it sounds like
it opens the door.
in December, it opens the door and they would wanna have a citizen task force to really work through some of those projects,
Yeah,
so.
it was something that I brought up, but we had a really tight deadline, so we had to kind of had to pick and choose what we did.
Understand, but the other thing was I think it would be good for a joint meeting with the Sustainability Commission, Traffic Advisory and staff to really talk through some of this, because I think there's some misnomers about, well, you know, we have to have all our ducks in a row for complete streets. When I look at it as more of a guiding principles adoption. And I think some of the feedback we're getting back is, well, we have to see how staff is have the costs and all these things. And I just think it would be good that we're all on the same page on that. So I've asked Dr. Peoples to set that meeting up for that. Anything else on complete streets or any other updates? With that, then I will turn it over to Anne for the South Elm between Lockwood and Big Bend discussion.
So I wanted to make sure to bring up the memorandum that you wrote, Carrie, because I know it was sent off and then has disappeared from existence somewhere. So I'm not sure who to follow up with on that. I don't know if I email. Do you know who I contacted about that?
We've overwhelmed them with memos.
No.
You're like, no.
No, I mean, he doesn't know who to contact.
I mean, everything would go through me and then I just follow it up, but I don't know.
Went from there.
Yeah,
All right, I'll search back through the email and see who I can contact about that. So I have some specific requests. I don't know if this is just all of us are, I'm pretty the fire and all of us would say yes and get it done if we could. But I wanted to see do not block intersection signage at Swan and Elm, possibly do not block driveway signage, because that entire section from Lockwood to Big Bend has just been forgotten about since all of the controversy in 2008, 2007, when the stoplight went in.
It was nice reading that newspaper coverage.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm glad you found it.
Little throwback. Some of my neighbors recorded it.
Yeah.
I know, I'm still friends with. So I suppose those are my specific things. So
Does that block
signage.
intersection seems like a no-brainer. I mean, that's.
Right.
A Swan, or would that be like the driveways on Elm?
So driveways on Elm would need, do not, I don't
Or
know.
do you mean street, do you mean driveways or streets?
So two distinct things. We need, I think, north-south, so on the main South Elm stretch, so not on Swan, we need do not block intersection. Some of the common sense signage that you see, I've been paying attention now, driving around town, that's on other streets and other places, is just, there's no signage. And then I think the behavior of the motorists is
A big part.
worse, right? So,
So like, I go down Cedar. Cut
Yes.
across Elm in the morning and there's, cars that block
Yes.
that intersection, I'm waiting for them to go and I usually give them the stare down and I pull up and I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing?
right,
But I worry about that.
yeah.
Sometimes my behavior. But is that what you're talking about? Like those intersections too, like Cedar and Jackson?
Yes. So I wasn't prepared to
No, it's
say
okay.
this succinctly, but yes, so I wanna see do not block intersections and additionally. I don't know why there is not pedestrian crosswalks with pedestrian safe signs that you can press a button and it blinks
Oh, at Cedar,
at Cedar and Jackson.
okay.
So Cedar, Jackson and Swan all need do not block
Yeah.
intersection and they need pedestrian crosswalks, which aren't there.
We just upgraded that signal.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's faster, isn't it?
So we got basically all new guts, new cabinet and then.
And the push button works again.
The push button
Oh,
works.
Yes, we had to turn it down because we had a few complaints about the noise. I was like, I don't know if we can do that, but we did.
Oh. But the button wasn't even
Oh,
working
it's
to
audible.
cross Swan.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but this is immediate, so these were in my petition, these are in the Complete Streets proposal, but I think immediately we need some of these obvious common sense missing
I think,
stripes and
you know,
signage.
if we're talking about Elm. Obviously is a what categorize?
Minor
Category
Minor arterial.
minor arterial.
Yes.
So there's a lot of cars that cut through, obviously,
Yeah.
or pass through, but there's also a
Thousands.
real connection between people. That live west of Elm that go to the high school. And they're the only, really, I mean, you either have to be at Swan or Lockwood. And you should be able to cross I think you should be able to cross that street, feeling safe doing it, and it's not.
Let me throw in here, do we wanna talk about this piecemeal? Or are these things to add to a bigger recommendation? I mean, so like,
That's a
I
great-
commented that the intersection one is obvious. But do we wanna do this piecemeal or carry this discussion on?
I don't
We
know.
did Make a request at one point to get on the list for counts on Elm. It was in dead of winter, so
Mhm.
can we see if we can get back, I don't know what the counting program looks like now, but.
And I agree with you, Steve. I think we need to see. Did something go forward? On South Elm?
Mhm.
Did it go to the city manager? And if
It was
not, then
sent-
we need to maybe update it. Holistically, right?
Yeah, that was supposed to be that memo, that suggestion was supposed to be kind of a stopgap measure until we could get counts and do a little more of a
Mhm.
full,
Get all the meat and potatoes.
full study, yeah. I mean, not study, but our level of study.
But so what I'm wondering is what happened, so I don't know if this was because of the neighbor who contacted me and then I contacted Traffic Advisory Commission folks to say that that button wasn't working for pedestrians. I don't know if that's
That
why
was-
it was changed, but how do you?
It was more internal. I know that was our oldest signal, and so we usually, so I'm in charge of signals because I used to work at MoDOT, so go figure.
Okay.
So they made me in charge. Great. So, thankfully, most of the signals that we have are almost upgraded. That was our last one that had older equipment, so. It was about time to overhaul because we had maintenance issues every so often with it, so, thankfully Eric put in a purchase order for it and we move forward.
So if we
So
approve other signage though,
it looks like on our action item list that we paused on this and we
Mhm.
haven't sent it up. So I think it's time to revisit.
no, TC voted to approve this memo to be sent up for consideration by the
It was
city
not-
council.
Okay,
Cause I think, yeah.
Oh,
you
but then are we
had,
waiting on the data?
Captain Perks
Yeah.
gave us an update that he had sent it up, that was, and that was the last
okay.
update we had received. So,
Sent up. So we need how long is the queue with the?
With the counts,
Mhm.
I'll check tomorrow and find out where we're
Okay.
at.
So I haven't heard anything from Jason about it in a while, so.
Right,
Did they figure out the new hardware, software? But.
that'd be a no.
Software.
That are the
That was-
counter thing, if
Oh.
it spit out the data, it was not, we couldn't even read it.
oh,
Jason will stop by my office, we can troubleshoot it.
I was gonna say, what are you guys using for counts?
I don't know what you guys use, we use Janmar.
Okay. So,
Ours is a radar mounted one that is, which is some variance in that as well, because it's not 100% accurate.
it could be, yeah, somebody updated their operating system, like went from Windows 10 to 11 or something. That screwed up my January's before.
Yeah.
But so is this something that we can just sit, like, vote on it and approve it, and then you guys can put it in the queue to do just
Perfect
signs and
world.
striping?
In a perfect world, sure. I don't know what my director will allow, but ultimately, so for the crosswalks, I know I've heard chatter about them. I don't know where we are with them, but again, they don't really tell me that much. It's always, hey, go do this, go do that.
Right.
So.
So maybe for the next meeting, you could report back what,
I can, yeah, so I can go and ask my, Todd, he was
Okay.
here at the last meeting, and again,
Alright.
this is where usually these questions are probably better fit for him, because he's always, I can give you false promises, but until Todd says yes, then, or unless. I
Okay.
propose
Well,
orders.
ask him the bigger question too. Does he want our discussion wrapped up or does he want it piecemeal?
As in, what do you mean, like, as in like a whole.
Right now, we're talking about.
Piecemeal
kinds of
section
intersections.
of Elm.
Yeah, or does he want our discussion broader about that section of South?
I
Elm?
guess, broader, I would imagine.
Okay.
I'm
Let's
not
check
sure.
that.
Yeah, cause I can ask him about where he feels about like the crosswalks and then the signage. I know the signage, I don't think would be a big deal for what we have doing the crosswalks. I don't know what money we have to do that with. That's
Mhm.
again, that's a way above my pay grade.
Right.
And
And
I-
in the signage, we have ordinances for those things, like do not block the intersection, do not block a driveway, so the ordinance is already passed. It's just getting the approval
Yeah,
to have
the
the
work
signs
order essentially.
in.
But like a work order. Okay,
So yes and no, because it would still would have to be approval, like and to be honest with you, we have big signs out front that say do not block fire department driveway.
And it happens all the time.
And every day, all day
Yeah.
long, that entire driveway is blocked by traffic.
but at least you've got something behind it.
They
This-
don't even, the stripes on the street, they were put there to stop people
Right.
from blocking that, and they just still park right at this.
Right,
It's like signage always, it can work, but usually if the driver says, I don't care, they're not gonna follow the rules.
right,
So,
but it makes a difference and it establishes an atmosphere for this community that we need to remind these commuters of, because they don't care, they're tired, they're getting to work or getting to their kids. And it's baffling to me that this minor arterial road that has no signage or stripes or crosswalks where kids are trying to get across the street to go to Bristol or Hickson or whatever. They took out the crosswalk at Cedar in 2008. And it was recommended at the time that a crossing guard would be there every morning, and now nothing is there.
except for cars.
Except for cars, and thank God, there's enough friendly people who stop and let me out of my driveway. And let people with their kid carts, with their strollers walk across the street, but we are signaling right now. We don't want our residents crossing South Elm at Jackson or Cedar, you're not allowed to cross there, we want you to have to walk all the way up. The hills to the intersections, and it's insane.
The tone of that newspaper article was odd, there was a part of it, it sounded like, who did the street belong to? Was it the county that Webster had to go along with whatever the county wanted?
For the signals put in?
Well, just for who.
Yeah, so
who made
MoDOT
decisions on the
came through and did that. for
Yeah.
When they did the 64.
So it's like, did Webster?
Yeah, but I couldn't
relinquish?
figure out, because the
Yeah.
person who came to meet with the community was the St. Louis County Director. of Highways.
Oh, right, Greg Gallagher.
Yeah, no, the guy before him, I just lost his name, but this was what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
2007.
Yeah,
2007,
so 14 years ago.
Yeah,
So yeah, I couldn't figure that either. The county
Yeah.
kind of came in and said, we're gonna put a signal here.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know, it was like a collaboration, kind of, we had some conduit that was hit that we had no idea was even ours to maintain, and it through our signals through our loop, so.
it feels like nobody knows who is supposed to maintain that stretch, and so no one has touched it, and it's just.
It's Webster.
Ed Webster.
They know
that's
it's there.
Right.
Big Bend is the county, and
Yeah, Big Bend, McLeod, our county, and I think. we're
and then
very-
Kirkham and.
Kirkham and Elm is us. So we do maintain that, it's just, again, there's a lot of other little hands in the pot.
Right, right. And I know it's not all you, and I appreciate everything you're doing, but I just think it's been two years plus and nothing has changed, and I don't understand.
I got I got a text and an email today that I'll circulate to everybody tomorrow from residents. Just this afternoon
Yeah,
on South Elm, but
and
I think Steve's question is really good. Do we want to, what we put forward? Do we want them to tell us, the status of that? Or do we want to add piecemeal this in, or do we want to pull that back and add, that whole stretch, what we envision?
mhm,
And then in terms of funds, I thought there was money in the sustainability fund for some test projects. That I would think that this would work, something like that. I mean, striping crosswalks. We have money for that in our
It's not the
sustainability.
manpower.
What's that?
We
The
keep
labor,
losing- Yeah, we keep losing people, so it's just, it's, right now, we're doing chip seal, and so I know, if it was, I'm sure we can
Okay.
find time for it, we can schedule it, it's just, we just have. Sure, we can get the money, but the manpower is a big question.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And I'll talk off the record just to learn about South Geyer, because that's a similar street with similar issues, because Merrimack is right there and there's an elementary school right there. And the signage is fabulous, and it signals to the drivers like, no, we mean slow down and do the speed limit. And Sappington as well.
So what do we want for our next meeting on this? So we're not just having the same conversation a month from now.
I can follow up with my peoples and then talk about it if you want.
Yep.
Or we can invite Tom.
I
Yeah.
can call Todd.
Yeah, cause I
Yeah,
mean, cause
like
like, I don't know, because ultimately, it's gonna be Tom's word.
Okay,
I don't know how all that Michigan works, but it's.
yeah, if you follow up with him, that'd be great. I can also distill the memorandum and these requests into a simple work order sheet.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I know, basically, so just so I'm clear, crosswalk at Cedar, Jackson, and then the no blocking intersection, no blocking driveway
Yeah,
Yes,
on both directions.
yeah,
excellent. Thank you.
sweet, thank you.
On to new business, Captain Perks, anything?
No, the only one I had was the update that you sent about the railroads. Is that on your list?
Yeah,
So two things on that. One, the railroads are federally owned. The city of Webster Groves can do nothing with them within 50 feet of the tracks. So there will be no sidewalks, there will be nothing on federal property.
So they mean business.
but
They mean that you can't even do anything.
Let me ask
Now, since then, though, you've been back there, the signage up
yeah,
has been put up.
right. So that's within 50 feet. So can we do signage?
We signage on, because the poles were there, the railroad does allow the signage for that. And so we put the signage up.
Yeah.
Work order, the signs are up, but
I
as
saw
far as
those.
doing construction on that property, paving sidewalks.
Right, and that wasn't their request. Their request was
The
to
signage.
put the signage
Signage is up.
because the sidewalks end,
Yep, they end.
they're on a hump.
Mm.
You're walking up and the signage was for cars saying, hey, there might be somebody
We got
walking
the
in
signs
front
are
of
up.
it. Exactly, I saw those.
Yeah,
Now, the letter in the Webster Kirkwood Times was about Elm, it was about Rock Hill
Yeah.
intersection.
the Rock Hill
When it hits
and
the tracks.
Right,
And there's no signage there, but
we might be able to put something outside of their range maybe, but.
right.
You still, like, we can't touch railroad, even when they did in Old Webster, I was like, well, we can't tell them to stop.
right.
They'll laugh us out of our car.
Right.
Right, but I appreciate it. I did send the guy that asked why there wasn't any signs there. I sent him pictures the other day. He's like, thank you.
Signs are up.
Oh, good, you did show them.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
So that was an interesting letter because it was based on keeping the community connected.
yeah,
And I don't remember, was it authored?
yeah.
So, I'm thinking about that individual, who's got a good thought. So does that person get a response?
I have a note to call him
Okay.
after this meeting, just to say, hey, we thank you for your letter.
Yeah.
We talked about it. There's some real restrictions on railroad crossing because that
Mhm.
belongs to the railroads. And we were able to do some signage, which we're doing where we can. But when I read his letter.
Yeah.
I thought of that still, which we have tabled, is our North Elm section. Because
It is.
that's a real connection to
Yeah.
North Webster and Old Webster and.
Yeah,
You
all three
can't-
intersections, Gore, Rock Hill and Elm.
Right.
Yeah. They should be all treated the same as far as trying to keep the community. connected.
Exactly.
So whatever exists at one of those spots should be all three.
Exactly.
Does that apply to the lighting there too, at the railroad crossing? Cause it's very dark there at night and the curb juts out. And you can see all the tires.
Which
Yeah,
one?
you can-
Which-
The
Rock Hill.
one,
Rock
Rock Hill. Not, no.
Oh.
Cherry,
What we're talking about with the new signs.
Sherry?
are. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, right.
Again,
where
they-
you cross the
can't-
tracks, where
Yeah,
there
you
is a
can't put
sign.
any-
so that's Cherry, but are you talking about at Rock Hill? in
Well,
Lockwood?
yeah, Rock Hill.
That's where
yes.
people hit, is that where the bad lighting is?
well, and that's where they got the center curve there. and
Yeah.
everything, too.
Yes, I
But once-
ran
once
into
again,
that
you
one
can't-
time.
you
My
can't
granddad
put
So
poles
dark.
on Railroad property. You
Okay,
can't
so
do
the
anything,
lighting
you
can't
can't do
be
anything on railroad
improved
property.
either?
That's-
I wondered about that, because you could see where everybody's hit that
Everybody
curve.
hits that
Yeah.
curve, yeah.
We were
Yeah.
talking about lighting in a railroad cross, like the Rock Hill and Lockwood crossing.
For the crossing lights.
Not the crossing
No.
lights, but just
Street
lighting.
lighting.
It's dark there and that.
Yeah, we could
curve
put stuff on
juts out,
Webster
everybody
Groves
hits
property,
that.
but you can't
Yeah.
put it
Everybody
on.
hits that curve.
We can't, like, if we go near it, they will come at us, like, it'd be a lawsuit that we couldn't even pay for. Like, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. The railroad is
Not messing
a-
around.
like, I know that crossing at Rock Hill has always been a nightmare for how bumpy it is, and I think it took Todd almost 10 years when they come out there and come and fix it, so.
Cause it is better now.
Oh, yeah,
It is better.
but yeah, so
And
it's,
that was a nightmare to get them to fix that.
Oh my gosh.
so it's, we can do what we can on our side, but anything near that, it's as good as done. Like, there's no way we can do it.
I was hoping David was here because I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation with him about like, how do we get updated on where things are? And how does that process flow? And is that sort of, he's our council liaison to sort of update us on some of that stuff, like the South Elm section. You know, how do we, you send it up, but
Answer tonight.
that's really something I think David needs to help us with.
Yeah.
On that, so I will try to.
You know, I'm gonna go back to my suggestion. I think a response in the paper to that letter, from somebody would be worthwhile.
Say that again.
About what the challenges are, and that would be a reply.
So people
paper.
know.
Yeah.
Let everybody that read the article
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the letter know.
Because that person was speaking for however many
Mhm.
thousands of folks who
Right.
live north there.
So I'll call him just to let him know we talked about it, but
Yeah.
then reach out to, I think it should come from the city.
Yeah,
Somebody in
Yeah.
the city to write, so I'll talk to,
I know Jenny is our PR person.
I'll
Sorry.
start with her.
Okay.
What's her last name? again?
Start.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I know we do get phone calls and we will update usually most of the residents, whether it's a fun conversation or not fun conversation. So,
But I think Steve's right that this is a letter in the paper. And
It's helpful.
so we could
Yeah.
make him happy.
Yeah.
Or at least informed, but how do we let everyone else know?
Yeah.
Okay, they're not gonna be watching our meeting tomorrow on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think there were 3 views last week. Anything else, any other new business or anything that anyone wants to,
I just want to ask, I didn't know if I needed to put this on the agenda. Remember when I brought up about the signage when you get off of 44? And it merged to one lane on the right and the sign is so far up?
oh, by the surgery center?
Yes.
Yes.
So I looked at, there's 2 signs there, and I don't think you could have a sign south of the intersection to the medical center there. I mean, so in other words, there's 2, but to put another one further south is,
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
the where it says merge to one lane.
Yeah, so there's 2 signs there already. There's the one near the intersection, and there's one another 150
Okay,
feet
this
south.
is- okay.
Oh,
Where we
so if you get off 44 and you head on north on Elm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sort of merges, you know,
People wait.
one lane goes down to Elm, one
And then
takes
they
a
try
left.
to sneak
one-
One makes a right only.
I never noticed 2 signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 there.
Merge.
Yeah.
Because after we had that conversation last time.
I know the
It's
one
true.
that is up too far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's way too late.
Well,
there.
maybe arrows earlier.
I don't think they merge, do they? They just one becomes
No,
right,
they're-
one
One
becomes
becomes right only.
Okay, that's what I was getting confused.
No, right,
Yeah,
Yeah, one becomes right only,
Yeah.
yeah.
and it
Oh,
works
yeah,
out.
everyone likes to get
Oh,
confused
yeah.
and sneak over.
Yeah, yeah.
Always.
That's just feigned ignorance.
Like we could,
Both
I can
fully.
ask my director and see what he said.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
can we
you.
have like little plastic?
Oh, delineators?
Yeah,
I do not
I think it'll
know.
help the situation, but it might like. be
Usually,
Right.
only
spot
time
for
I know that
people.
we've ever used delineators is for like making an alert, bringing up alertness for like curbs and like islands, so people don't hit them. Cause usually, any delineators that we have on the street end up being a bigger traffic like congestion issue than it does more harm than good usually. At least in our experience here.
Would the same be with the solid line?
Painting can help, but usually people.
I'm saying there's a dotted line there now, so.
Yeah, it's dotted.
There's, it's till you get up to the intersection.
Yeah.
Cause striping and signage, obviously, you know, we have more wiggle room.
Yeah.
That's where, again, I know county maintains Big Ben at that.
County just restriped. I just saw him out there last week. For the record, I called to ask him if they would put in more visible pedestrian striping, because they just use standard 2-line crosswalks.
So I was wondering, you know, like the Hill just did their
Yeah.
colors, and I know there was some talk about, is that legal? You have to have standard. I mean, it'd be awesome if Webster did, you know,
Be awesome.
black and orange or some kind of, something real distinctive. And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, I won't speak for the city, but that would be they're really expensive.
As a
It's
former
really
statesman, it would
expensive.
be fun, but ask my director and see what he says.
And depending how traditional your director is, they don't like decorative crosswalks. But no, I called the county to see if they would put in like Continental, which is like the thicker bar type crossing, just to make it more visible. And I got shot down very quickly, so, but I did try. Yeah, they do not do anything but standard crosswalks, apparently. I know, but if it came from the city, apparently that's not what they do, so.
So
But
we're
they
2
did just
minutes
repaint.
over, I guess, the last thing I think we need to do is pick our next meeting dates. It seems like we should pick one in October and November, and maybe December will be an off month for us.
Yes, sir.
Cause I've been trying to find for that, protected lefts right there by Marshall and
Is everyone,
for years. I grew up over there and it's a nightmare.
good for the 9th and 13th, the 9th of October and 13th of November?
But we can't pick them officially yet.
I mean,
But I'll look at those dates and.
Those
and
The
see
9th
them.
is
Columbus
Columbus
Day,
Day.
nice people.
Yeah,
Those days.
I like to call it both.
so the 16th,
It's not a city holiday.
That's
Oh,
not
it's
a
not.
holiday,
It's not a
no.
city holiday if it makes a difference.
It is a DOT
So we could
holiday.
do,
You probably remember that.
I will look at the 9th and 16th of October.
and then the 13th and 20th is Thanksgiving week, but maybe look at those dates also.
13th, probably better.
Yeah, 20th, nobody's gonna.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be on that. I'll look for the 13th of November.
Okay. And you'll just let us know if those
Yep,
dates work.
I'll do that tomorrow and see if the room's available, the meeting's available.
But no conflict with those dates for you? Perfect. Anything else before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion to?
I just want to ask a question, so. Your police department, they block and do not block in front of the station. And yet there's never been a ticket written.
All day.
All day long here, people pulled over.
Yeah.
Thing too.
All
Oh,
day,
yeah.
and it doesn't deter anybody.
Well,
That's why we write them.
The one thing that's confusing, there's one thing about that signage that's confusing to me because it says. Something about don't park here on red. But the red is like way up there.
No, it says stop here on red.
Stop
So
here.
Stop here on red, which is the stop, and it's the stop light, there's a stop line there, and
Right.
so you don't block the.
But if it's
driveway.
green, if it's green up there and people go,
But that's not the stoplight they're talking about. They're talking about the.
But they could get stuck.
Fire department stoplight.
so but that one only goes off when the fire department is, right?
Right.
So I think people look, I mean, really, if you're driving up there, the only light you see really is the one on Lockwood,
You see, you see both of them, the fire department light and.
but it's
then the-
not on. Is what I'm-
It's on flash all the time.
so my suggestion would be just to put up some kind of non-harming laser light monitored on the fire department. And when there are cars that are stopped, they're blocked, if this light shines in these vehicles.
Yeah.
What?
Saves their engine,
Well, I would go that far. I mean, I'm serious, you know?
makes their timing
We
go
got the
so that
tech,
they
right?
buttered up.
But to answer that, we write those to blocking the fire department.
All right.
That would keep it low.
I'm actually
Buck-
contracted.
Buck Rogers, do you have a motion for us to adjourn? Is there a second for us to adjourn?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Learned a lot.
I hope that was helpful.
It was, learned a lot about a lot of other things too, so good discussion.
I think we have alternate positions
Yeah,
open.
that position's
Yeah.
If you want to,
I'm, my plate's kind of full.
you don't want to hang out with us once a month and talk about science.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Did you wanna-
Lateral, so
Leave us money on